Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man. 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
I feel like we just spoke a few hours ago. I don't know if impressed is the right word, but it's a thing. The Aggies have this the Aggie football team has this amazing ability to turn a game that feels like it's going to be a blowout and then have a chance on the last possession to win. They've done it multiple times. They did it last night. They did it against Ole Miss. They've done it a lot, guys. Let's just be honest. Over the last couple of years, especially this season. We've seen it many times. A&M came close. They had their chances in this game. No doubt about it. They absolutely had some chances in this game. They just couldn't finish the deal. What was it? 38 players out, something to that effect. A game where there was no running game again, right? There was a lack of a running game, no doubt about that. A game where your secondary was picked on like they had been all season long. A game where you fumble inside the 5-yard line. And I've been able to watch the replay since that point, and I do understand that the Oklahoma State player did recover it probably at the 4. When I first saw it, I was like, man, I don't think he recovered until in the end zone, but he did. But now we can turn the page. Good. I'm happy to turn the page. I think I was ready to turn the page before the game. And then all of a sudden, somewhere in the third quarter, maybe it was a Sam Matthews interception. No, it was before that. Somewhere early, right? It was the pick to get it started in the second half. But I was like, man, I want this game to keep going. They played the first half scared. They played the second half like the aggressors. The difference, you could see it in the score. They wanted to be there. No doubt about that. I have no ill will for Elijah Robinson. I saw some people on the boards just going after him. No, I mean, the first half wasn't pretty. What can you expect? Let's break it down here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Today is Thursday, December the 28th, 2023. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That's where we find the man that we named this hour after, Olin Buchanan, part of the Go Hour, our Heisman Trophy voter. Good morning, OB.
Good morning, David. It is a good morning because I think we saw, like Aggies ever need reasons, right? But I think we saw reasons to believe in this football program. When you saw there's 31 players out, you had 2 defensive starters playing. For the most part, it was just a ragtag group of defense of backups, true freshmen, and walk-ons trying to play against the team that played for the Big 12 championship. And you're down to your 4th-string quarterback on the first play of the game, and you're 24-6 deficit in the second half at halftime, and then you go out and you see all these guys with no reason to keep playing, and they go out and just play an inspired second half and remind you of what's possible if you can harness that passion that too many players didn't have, quite frankly, and just opted not to play. And I do wonder what goes through the mind of some of those guys who are going to be on the team next year and decided that they just didn't want to play for whatever reason. I understand if they're injured, that's one thing, but they were capable of playing and didn't, and watched their teammates in that situation go and give such an inspired and courageous effort, and they fell short. It reminded me of the movie Rocky. You know, he didn't win at the end, but you came away, you know, admiring and inspired by what you saw.
OB, one of the I'm kind of torn because I'm so, like, you get okay. I don't want to say you're ever okay with a blowout, but you hate getting so close on a game that was going the blowout. Yet I came away inspired at the same time. I don't know if that even makes sense, but like I'm watching this game unfold. I'm like, let's just move on. And then they get my interest, and I'm like, dude, they're gonna make this a game. And oh, dude, we got a chance. And oh, if we don't make this mistake, like we've done for the last couple of years, we've said that. If we don't make this mistake, we're going in for the win. Same result, but yet I came away a little intrigued and inspired.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You know what? I think there are no moral victories at Texas A&M, but this was a morale victory. This program needed something like that. I mean, I'm not saying that this means everything's going to be great next year, and I'm not saying that had they gotten blown out, that next year was going to be a wash. I'm not saying that thing like that, but you just needed a reminder of the players out there that play because, you know, they love the game, they love their teammates, they love the fans, they love Texas A&M, and I think you saw that. You needed to remind it because we've been we've always been hearing about or guys that are, hey, I didn't get the deal, or I'm leaving, or how many transferred, and then I understand it's a trend in college football for guys that are going into the NFL not to play, so you accept that. But it's hard to accept that there were guys that could have played that are still part of the team that just didn't. And because of that, you had a secondary that was just overmatched in every way. And yet, you lose your starting quarterback on the first play of the game, and this kid that barely played, Marcel Reed comes in, and he struggles at first, and then he gets his footing, and he reminds you what a running quarterback can do, but he threw the ball well and throws for 361 yards and has a 20-yard touchdown and all these things. And like you said, they inspired you by seeing a bunch of underdogs go out in the second half, and I said just didn't quit. And I got to tell you, I couldn't tell you what happened in the second half because I didn't think there was any reason to track it play by play. I was working on my column about the blowout, so I'm thinking maybe I'm going to get home before 3.
What time did you end up getting
home? So
I
can start right now, but about 3:30. But instead, I had to stop and start taking in and just almost reveling that potluck team of guys that just nobody in their right mind would believe in, and see them have a chance to beat the number 20 team in the country that was playing for a 10th win and getting to beat an SEC team. You know, their conference is destroyed by the SEC and all these things. Oklahoma State had every reason to play. And to my knowledge, every player they had was out there. And, A&M was, with Sam Matthews starting at safety and freshmen out there and a walk-on starting at corner and all these things. And they're just severely overmatched and yet found a way to just sheer will and determination to go out and not only make it a game, but and be respectable, but had a chance to win. Now, it was an unfortunate fumble by Amari Daniels, who was making an outstanding play on that particular instance, but he got hit from behind.
Yep.
And sometimes things like that happen. But like I said, there are no moral victories at Texas A&M, but that was certainly a morale victory.
When the game starts, OB, and the very first play happens and Jalen Henderson goes down, did you have that like, oh my gosh, this is so predictable yet not kind of gut in your stomach?
Oh, I was thinking, what else can go wrong here? The one thing you came into this game thinking maybe they could do is score enough to make it competitive. And because you knew when you saw who was going to be out there, or at least you thought that, okay, Oklahoma State's going to score some points. They have the leading rusher in the country in Ollie Gordon, and they have the pretty good receivers, and their quarterback's not great, but he's capable, and all those things. And now you're thinking, forget that part of it, trying to keep up with them. And it seemed like that was going to be the case. Reed made some nice plays, but A&M had to settle for 2 field goals, and they're down 24-6 at the half. And you're thinking, well, they did the best they could. Then they come out and they score early in the second half, and you're like, okay, 24-13. They made a good accounting of themselves. They showed that they can stay in this game longer than anybody thought. And Oklahoma State goes and scores. And, well, now here it comes. Nope. Then they come back down, and Reed runs 20 yards for a touchdown. And then you're like, wait. You're still in it. And then the Daniels play that if you don't get the fumble, good play by Oklahoma State. If that opportunity was there, you could have gone in and cut it to a 4-point deficit and all those things. And it was what was amazing about it was that you saw the number 20 team in the country that played for the Big 12 championship in full force, struggling to put away a team that, look, you're down to your 4th-string quarterback. You don't have any of your starting receivers from last year, from this past season. You don't have your starting tight end. And then only 2 starters in the defense on defense. By the way, you come away going, Torrey York is better than we thought. DJ Hicks is going to looks like he could be another Justin Matabike with some more time and development and I come away thinking once again Moose Muhammad makes you think, what were they thinking? How many one-handed grabs that show up on top 10 plays on SportsCenter does this guy have to make before people realize that he was criminally underused? So you saw reasons to think that with a different coaching staff, if they can harness that passion and desire and heart, all the buzzwords that coaches like to use that are true but are cliche, and you can find, give them a better scheme and harness that and make them proud. Maybe that's the kind of game that'll make some of those guys that set out a little embarrassed that they set out and proud of what their teammates almost accomplished. And, maybe that's going to be the first step of changing the attitude and building the culture that they need to win.
OB, Sam Matthews, man, that story to me, just awesome, right? Like, didn't even know if he was going to play this year. He had to wait out. I think he found out in August he was eligible to go. Gets the 12th man, just kicks butt, the interception's the easy play to look at. He had 14 tackles. He led the team in tackles. He led the team. He tied for the lead in tackles for loss. What a performance.
Yeah, that's what the 12th man's supposed to do, right?
Yep.
A guy that, again, against all the odds, goes out and overachieves, and he played really well. He was, he played a key role in A&M containing Ollie Gordon. He still had about 120 yards rush, a little less than that. But he wasn't the dominant factor that he's been in so many games. They actually kept him under a wraps for the most part. They had one long run, and the rest of the time, he was trying to get 4 or 5 yards here and there, and Sam Matthews was part of that. And he did not know that he was going to be in the starting lineup until game time.
Right.
They were hoping. He didn't say who it was. I assume it was Kobe Matthews. They was hoping, or maybe it was Jared Kirk. That they were waiting to see if they were going to be able to play, and just couldn't go and say, "Hey, Sam, congratulations, you're making your first career start. Let's see what you can do." And he went out and showed what he could do.
OB, I don't have any ill will towards Elijah Robinson, and I don't think we should. I understand why people were upset. Like I didn't like the look of going in the home of a current commit, and you know the I guess the way it looked, right? Like it just didn't look right. But overall, this guy, he said the right things, and that team may have not started the game ready to play. They finished ready to play.
Yeah, I thought I'm with you too. Just the appearances of conflict of interest were there. I'm sure there was some conflict of interest. I don't like the idea of a guy that's going to be around your players every day and coach them at the same time being employed by another university. And it's one thing if none of the A&M players had decided to transfer to Syracuse. To me, that's just a bad look, and you shouldn't be in that position where a guy, not saying he did, but he had the ability, not say he didn't, to recruit guys on your roster for his next stop. But he says that he encouraged guys to stay here and give Mike Elko a chance, and then you got to take him at his word. But to be the coach for that game, he inspired the team not to quit. A team that has been so easy to quit when you're down, again, 24-6 at halftime, you're down to your freshman fourth-string quarterback, you have so many players out, the defense is just a shell of what it normally is. And he somehow was able to inspire that team and keep them together. And, if that's what he can do, he may be a head coach in the not too distant future. But, it has to be more than a one-time thing. But I thought he did a commendable job last night for Texas A&M.
Obie, I want to go back to Moose because you and I agree on a lot of things. I think you and I were talking about Moose, and a lot of people were. This is not an original thought. But, like, every time I saw this dude on the field, he just made plays. Every time I talk to the young man, he impresses me, right? He's kind. He's well-spoken. He's about this university. And I don't know whatever the dynamic was with Jimbo and the previous staff, but when a guy consistently makes acrobatic plays, when a guy who barely plays, to be honest with you, is close to being in your top 15 all-time of touchdowns for a wide receiver at A&M, with the limited time he's played, I'm baffled. I am baffled that kid did not play more.
I was too. I thought we'd see a lot of them this year, especially after the way he closed that 2022 season against LSU, making circus catches. And, it's clear that those circus catches aren't luck, right? Because you do it too often. He had one last night that just reaches back with one hand and pulls in a 29-yard pass like it's nothing. Like, hey, I've done this before, because he has. Not only, look, I get it. If you're gonna put him behind a Nias, it was going to be hard for him to play. What I never understood was why he couldn't get in when there's two other positions. And yeah, he was behind good receivers there too, but to not play at all. I mean, other guys played more that were backup, but I've always been a fan of his. He makes me an even bigger fan that he goes out and makes the plays that he made. And he's still around, when guys are sitting out. And here's a guy that, if anybody on that team had the right to say, the heck with it, I'm moving on and I'm not playing, it was him. Now, maybe Jimbo had an issue with him dating back to that Auburn game with the sleeve situation and everything. And maybe Jimbo just never forgave him for that, right? But I thought he paid his penance against LSU last year. And I think it's one of the big mysteries of this season is why he didn't play more. And then he goes out like he always does when he does play. And like you said, he makes plays. He's productive. They're only targeting 4 times. He caught 3 of them. for 68 yards. So what was that, an average of a little bit better than 22 yards a catch?
Yeah.
Again, that's one of the many mysteries of this season. That why a player's so productive that's shown what he can do over and over when he gets the opportunity. Why he didn't play more? But I sure was glad to see him out there last time.
And look, if we're going to talk Moose, we got to spend a few minutes on Ja'Day Walker. This kid, man. I said it yesterday on the post-game wrap, OB. He is what I love about the transfer portal, right? The ability to go somewhere bigger. And look, there's a lot of good stories even from big school to another big school. I'm like Jaden Henderson, right? Not Jaden. Yeah, Jalen Henderson is one of those, but also Jaden Daniels, excuse me. But the way Ja'Day Walker had the second part of this season, after he kind of fell out of favor for a little bit, he really turned it on the last part and makes you say, you know what, we can roll with this dude next year.
Yeah, he does need to get more consistent, but 137 yards, had a 34-yard gain. He had a chance to score a touchdown early. Perfectly thrown pass. It would have been a really good catch. He was covered, had a chance. I think that's a throw that, if you remember the one I'm talking about, is when they settled for their first field goal. He'd probably tell you he should have caught it. He could have, should have. All right, he didn't, but he got hurt and he came back. Once again, talk about going against the odds. I mean, here's a guy from Grand Valley State, was backup most of the years, just been thrust into the lineup. He gets hurt in this game, and he still comes back and has 137 receiving yards, and just was a huge factor in you having a chance to win it, or at least tie at the end. So, again, you don't like to use, or at least I don't like to use the old coaching cliches of heart and overcoming adversity, but man, that's what they're talking about when they say things like this. Talk about Ja'Day Walker and the kind of performance he had.
OB, buddy, I appreciate you as always. Before I let you go, I do want to talk about one of your favorite meals.
Okay, let's hear about it.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Let's hear about it.
If you're into seeing food that starts with a C, there's a place that is known for other food that you'll be very happy today to have that special, if you know what I'm talking about.
Today I would have some pork chops along the special. And get some macaroni and cheese over there at Fargo's too. But that's a special on Thursday. But tomorrow, Friday, you can get the 4 C's. They got the catfish, corn, coleslaw, and crunchy hush puppies that I love, or you can just go every day for the next 3 days, and on Saturday go get you my favorite, the life-changing rib tips. One way to celebrate overcoming the odds and almost pulling off a victory is going to Fargo's and getting those rib tips or those crunchy hush puppies and catfish, because that'll make you feel like you won.
Well, I'm embarrassed because today is my last day of working this week. It's your last day of working this week, and I'm thinking it's Friday, but you're right, it is Thursday. But it doesn't matter what day you go to Fargo's, right?
Yeah, the only days it's not good is Sunday and Monday because it's not open. But then that gives you a chance, something to look forward to on Tuesday when those rib tips come out again. And then on Wednesday you can get the big old baked potato with the chopped beef on it. From Tuesday to Saturday, there's a reason to go to Fargo's. Like I said, you can go there, and even if you lost, you feel like you won.
1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the what?
The best barbecue in Texas, because that makes it the best barbecue in the world.
Did you know that's your trademark?
Well, the trademark is true.
Yeah, you're right. I guess you're always right, OB. It's Fargo's. Go check it out. Thanks, OB. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Appreciate you all being with us this morning as we look back at the season it was and continue to hope for good things in the future. Maybe this year will be the year, as many of us have said on many different occasions. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can do it multiple ways. You can call us or you can text us. If you call us, we'll pick it up on the Brian Foley Law hotline. Good people can have a bad day. Call Brian Foley Law at 936-596-0407, serving Houston, the Woodlands, Conroe, and the Brazos Valley. A few text messages to get into here before we get to Stephen McGee. But before we do that, let's go behind the glass and check in with my partner here, Nick Savage. Nick, good morning, buddy.
Morning. How are you?
I'm all right. So you stayed here a little later than I did. How are you feeling this AM?
Well, I was, feeling sorry for myself, all tired. But then OB said he didn't get home till like 3:30. So I decided, I'm not that tired then. So, but yeah, disappointing. Me and Luke Evangelist always joke around during the season, saying we wanted to see, Marcel Reed. We want Marcel Reed action. Not the way we wanted to get it, obviously, with Jalen Henderson going down. But, he was exciting to watch. It's cool to see him throw for, over 300 yards?
Yes.
In first significant playing time. So, he kept them in the game, and that's exciting for the future.
Yeah, no doubt. Definitely exciting for the future. And look, the guys who played, a lot of those guys that played yesterday may not play very much moving forward, right? Like, and some of those dudes, I kept on thinking about this, and excuse the comparison. Do you remember Kobe Bryant's first game?
No.
Or not first game, excuse me. His first playoff game or first playoff elimination game?
You're talking to the wrong NBA expert here, but enlighten me.
All right. There was a game with Kobe Bryant. I believe it was against the Utah Jazz back in 1996, 97, somewhere in that range, right? I believe he was a rookie, so it probably was the 96 season. And he kept on shooting threes, and he kept on missing, and he kept on shooting threes, and he kept on missing. And people on the broadcast were like, what is he doing, right? And I'm just saying there's some youngsters yesterday that got picked on that I think, no doubt about it, are going to be better for what they went through yesterday. And there's some we won't see very much of, right? There's going to be a learning moment, and there's some we probably won't ever see again, right? That's just the reality of the way college football is now, and not going to whine about it. We've done enough of that at this point. But again, I go back to this. I was a little, I don't know if inspired is the right word, but I was proud. I don't like losing, and it's not about a moral victory. It's none of that. But this team could have laid down, right? Down 24-6. Yet they had a chance. Having a chance isn't good enough in the future. But again, this is the end of the 23 season and the beginning of the Mike Elko era, right? And that's what it's all about. It's about change. Let me read a couple text messages that have come in this morning. Marsha, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you please.
Read a couple, but we do have Dr. Stephen McGee on the line ready for his
segment.
He's ready. Whenever you're ready to get to it.
Well,
he's on Zoom, has his stock trader headset on, so he's ready, and he's waiting and ready to go.
Well, we'll do this. I'm going to read Marsha's text. We're going to hit a break, and we're going to do the Stephen McGee segment here. To all the TexAgs, Happy New Year. Thank you, Marsha. Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for being such a loyal watcher and listener of the program. We'll hit a break. We'll come back with Dr. McGee next on TexAgs. Right now, though, we're talking Chance McClain. He was not texting. He was tweeting at me during the game. He's like, he was giving me his medical diagnosis of what happened to Jalen Henderson, and he was all invested in this team and in this game because he loves Aggies. His daughter went to school here, and she loves A&M. He loves A&M. But more importantly, he loves telling people stories. That's why he started Heritage Films, which is a documentary service, basically. They'll do your documentary. They'll do your dad's documentary. They'll do your grandfather's documentary. They'll do your documentary, your family business, your family ranch. They'll tell that story, 2-hour-long Netflix-style documentary. He is the absolute best doing this, corner of the market, and just doing great work. He also has the Year Flicks, which is an option. It's a shorter option. It's about 20-minute videos, more Q&A for him. You sit down with a green screen behind you. They ask you a bunch of questions, or they ask, really, it's for the youngers, right? If you have a freshman in college, you want to document that story, and then they become a sophomore, they pick their major, and then their junior year, they're interning somewhere, senior year, they graduate, they get their ring, and they get married, whatever it may be. They get their ring earlier. But You catch my drift. You can have that 4-part story done with Chance McClain and Heritage Films. The phone number, 713-893-8341, 713-893-8341 is Heritage Films. It is a good morning here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Garner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's get to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We are joined by our QB1, Paragon Financial, Stephen McGee. Stephen, good morning, buddy.
Good morning, man. How we doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Good. It's been a good Christmas. Enjoyed it at the house, and first year our little girl was able to like kind of quasi open up presents, and so that was fun. And yeah, man, it's slow. It's good. No traffic in town. Get to go eat whatever restaurant you want to, and life's good.
That's my favorite time of year here in this community. Yeah. I became the old guy. When I was a college student, I wanted the people here, right? Like now I'm like, just give me a little break on traffic.
Yeah, it's the life circle. Yeah, we're right there with you. We venture out a little further. We'll even go as far as university now. You know, go over there to Century Square, check out a restaurant or two we hadn't been, and avoid all the traffic. It's always good times. Maybe even go catch a movie if we get carried away. We'll see.
Ooh, hey, so I came away, and look, I feel weird saying this because like I'm done with moral victories and like we came close, but I was really just proud of the fight that they showed in the second half with a chance to win, especially considering this is not, it's going to be a different regime here. Moving forward, it's different. Everything is different. So closing out what was an unfortunate 3-year stretch, right, and hopefully the end of it, I came away like saying, hey, good job, guys, fighting back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you, Dave. I was proud of the effort of the guys, and a lot of people put in difficult situations, losing your quarterback on the first play of the game, bringing in a true freshman that's, 18 years old or 19 years old, and, he throws for 300 yards. I mean, that's phenomenal. You got to tip your hat to all of that. But at the end of the day, then I'm torn. I'm sitting here saying, well, we're 7-6. We lose in the Houston Bowl again, and we lose to a not very good Oklahoma State team. Like, they had some good players, certainly, but top to bottom, you're talking about a team that got destroyed by Texas. And, at this point, with all the talent we have and where we should be, it's frustrating to say that we lose a bowl game to Oklahoma State. So I'm kind of torn, right?
Yeah.
The day after, I'm sitting here like, there's a lot of great things to take away from the game. Guys stepped up, made plays. They were put in positions they normally wouldn't have to perform in, and they responded, and you love that. But just a frustrating year, I think, overall.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Definitely frustrating, but there were some performances that I don't want to say marveled at, but I was just like, there we go, guys. Like Marcel Reed in that situation. You know what it feels like to come in. Kind of give me your thoughts of what you saw from the young man as a freshman.
Oh man, a phenomenal athlete and poised to be able to go in there in that environment and compete and respond. Now, obviously the benefit there being he's been the backup quarterback for 4 or 5 games now. And then you have all the bowl practices. So he should have plenty of reps under his belt. Whereas, you look at the NFL and you're a backup rookie, completely different scenario. We're not getting any reps with the guys you're playing with. But nonetheless, it's phenomenal. And look, he's a developmental prospect. He hasn't arrived. He's not a championship caliber quarterback. No one's trying to say he is yet. What he did though was phenomenal, right? Because of the lack of experience. And then you see some of those skill sets that made him a highly recruited guy, the ability to evade people, extend plays, use his legs to get yards, all those things. Now, where does he got to get better? I think it was pretty obvious. He's got to become a better passer. He just, the ball fluttered, his feet got to be better, getting the ball out on time and then delivering consistent, accurate throws. There were some easy ones that we missed last night. Right. So, but he's 18, he's 19. I mean, good gosh, what more could you ask for the kid? And so very, as a fan, I was proud of the way he competed.
Yeah, I was too. I was gutted for Jalen Henderson, man.
Gosh, it was terrible, wasn't it? I mean, Jalen is, I don't know what your feel is, but he's kind of a under the radar Aggie fan favorite. I feel like just the way he handles himself and he competes, and he just seems like a good kid. I felt terrible for him.
Yeah, I felt horrible for him. The one thing about both of those guys, right? And I said this about Moose, and I'll say it about those two dudes, right? Like, they got better with opportunities. And Marcel, we saw it in the game. He felt much more comfortable. And really, the first time we saw Jalen, he played great, but I was like, man, I don't know if he can throw very well. Well, he ended up throwing very well.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. You could see him almost settle in the game, like take a breath, and you could see some of that talent come out as it progressed along. And I think that they did a better and better job as the game progressed of giving him some good explosive plays. You had the throwback to the tight end. That was a good explosive play, and he made some good down the field throws into some tight windows. I thought early they would have probably tried to use his legs a lot more. I know they had a couple called quarterback draws that didn't seem to be very effective, but he can do a lot. And I think if you were to go into that game, you probably incorporated more quarterback run game with Marcel, but being that you didn't expect him to play, you kind of rolled with whatever it is that you had dialed up for Jalen. I was impressed. Quick game. It's going to be fun. I mean, this whole scheme is going to shift. Obviously, you're talking about Colin Klein coming in here now, and Will Howard was a guy that reminds me a lot of Connor, honestly. But his history is involved in the quarterback run game, and both of these quarterbacks are more athletic and really can use their legs. So it's interesting to see which direction they take. Look, I think Connor is hands down. It's the guy. Like he's a rare bird. But when you look forward, you sign a true freshman out of high school who we talked about last week, who's more of a pocket passer, right? So you're going to have some very different quarterbacks on your roster at the same time when you look down the road.
Talking to Stephen McGee here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Here's the thing that I don't know. I mean, I don't think the line looked bad yesterday, but they didn't look good in run block. They could not run the ball, and Oklahoma State wasn't very good at stopping the run. That was concerning.
It really was, and we bragged about a lot of guys that had to step up into positions that maybe they didn't play, they didn't have a lot of reps in, and at the same time, I think one of the disappointing things I took away from the game was that we had some really supposed good veteran players that I didn't feel like played really well. Bryce Foster on the offensive line, expect him to be a third-year leader. Bryce Anderson on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like he got picked on in the pass game. And so, that to me is one of the sour points of, the takeaway of the guys that were here that did stay. In some one-on-one situations, you showed it, rear its head again. So what an opportunity though for both those guys to get better, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It seems like this recurring theme of the inability to stop the explosive pass. I mean, Ole Miss, it's like every week you have a receiver that you think is going to win the Heisman against our defense. And last night they were just throwing these lollipops up in the air and they were bringing down everything. And it wasn't that we weren't in good position at times, but it's certainly frustrating. And so I'm not saying Mike Elko is going to wave a magic wand and fix all that overnight. But what I do know is he's a safeties guy. He's a defensive minded guy. They're going to get coached up. They're going to have the opportunity to really mature as football players. And yeah, I mean, the offseason is about getting bigger, stronger, faster. But how about mentally grow your game to where you play faster, and especially for safeties like Bryce Anderson, a guy that, hey, if you can, even if you're not the biggest guy, the fastest guy, there's guys that have 10, 15-year NFL careers because they think fast, right? They're able to use their savvy to stay on the field. Now, that's not true at corner. I mean, there's no corners out there that are slow or unathletic, but at safety, you can play for a long time if you're smart. And so there's going to be a big opportunity for these guys, but we've got to get better on the back end. That's just, it was disappointing to say the least.
Yeah, it was disappointing. Sam Matthews, not disappointing. Fun to watch, made big plays. Everything that's good about being the 12th man, everything that's good about being an Aggie, I think Sam Matthews exemplifies that.
There's no doubt. Yeah, I mean, that was fun to watch him out there. Hey, he was in some tough situations. He was guarding some slot receivers out wide. I mean, it's not an easy task. And used to seeing him only on kickoff cover, and so there were. That's a great example of guys that stepped up to the challenge. And it wasn't perfect, right? We're not making him out to be a shutdown corner, or that's where his future is. But certainly, it was where the team needed him last night, and he did a great job of filling that.
All right, let's hit a break here. We'll come back with a little buy, sell, lease, and also I want to see what's next for A&M in your mind. If you get into the mind of Mike Elko, which is kind of weird, I'm getting into your mind to get into Mike Elko's mind. What's the first order of business plus a little buy, sell, lease? Next with Stephen McGee here on TexAgs Radio. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. We're talking to our QB1 Stephen McGee here. Stephen, let's play a little buy, sell, lease. When you look at this team, all right, and you've got to fix certain areas, would you buy, sell, lease getting a new cornerback or new cornerbacks, right? Wide receivers or offensive line? Give me the order.
All right, I'm going to go offensive line. It's going to be hard for me to imagine us winning many games. I think you see teams with good offenses, but they have a bad defense, but their offense is explosive enough to where if their defense can come up with a stop or two, they are able to win football games. I'm not saying that's the ingredients of great football, but I have to start in the trenches and say offensive line, I would buy first. I would then lease and go to cornerbacks. The ability to play man coverage, take a guy off the board, and then get an extra safety down the box is huge for a defense where you don't have to play shell coverage. I don't know why last night we didn't play more 3-fire zone behind the pressures. I love coming after the quarterback, but why we were in single high man, leaving those guys on an island was perplexing to me. But you've got to be able to do it at times. I mean, the great defenses do it. Georgia, Alabama, you got to be able to play man. I just don't think we're there yet. And then wide receivers would be my last. I would sell. I'm not saying that we don't have a need there. We don't have much depth, but the guys we do have are good enough to help us win. I think the next thing is with Evan Stewart gone and Nia Smith gone. Who is the explosive guy? I love Moose, his ability to go up and make a catch, but does he have game breaking speed? I don't think that's really Noah Thomas. So that'll be an interesting thing moving forward.
Interestingly, I'm watching this team yesterday, and I'm like, I don't know if it's the talent on the offensive line or the way they've been coached. And I say that, look, there are some issues on that line, but Bryce Foster showed me something so different in year one. I can't think that he lost the talent. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like he was just coached to do something differently. Along with maybe some, he's preoccupied with track, but we didn't get to see Deuce Fathery this year, but last year he took a step back, unfortunately. Do you kind of agree with that line of thinking?
I really do. I'm curious to see with the new O-line coach and how those guys can develop. I don't think that they're lacking talent. And what I tell people a lot is, there's a good chunk of moments last year, as much criticism as that group took, where the pocket was phenomenal. I mean, they had phenomenal pockets. So it wasn't always terrible. And I'd also say that a lot of the pressures we got on quarterbacks were free rushers. They were mental busts, where it wasn't an ability or talent perspective. Now, sure, we had our handful of getting mishandled up front, losing one-on-ones, but I don't think it was as common as what most people would think. I think there was a lot of mental bust where guys were going to the wrong or, missing a guy in pass pro. So I'm like you, Dave. I am optimistic. And I think from a fundamentals perspective, these guys can get better and get coached up and maybe have a new way of communicating and being coached as well.
So moving forward, get inside the mind of Mike Elko. What are you fixing first? Does it go back to kind of our buy, sell, lease, or are there other places? Because I think a new strength and conditioning coach and Tommy Moffitt's going to make all the difference, at least right here in the head.
Yeah, I think you start with the culture, right? I think that's the thing that has to get fixed first. You have to change the expectation and the accountability that is held from the top down in that building. I think it's going to look very different under Mike Elko than it was with Jimbo Fisher. I think everyone's going to be held at the same standard, whether you're the newest equipment manager or the head man. It's going to be the same standard, and it's going to be a championship standard. Anything less than that is unacceptable. Going to the Texas Bowl in general is unacceptable at this school, this university. We've got to be better than that. Next year it's going to be. Unfortunately, I just you look at the talent last night. I don't know. I feel like it's going to be a rebuild year. A lot of guys transferring, new faces, but you got a great quarterback. But you've got to change the way in which this program is run. That's the most important thing that can happen around here. And it starts in the offseason, yes, with the strength coach. everyone. It takes everyone every day doing your job exceptionally well. And that's what's going to help us get to the championship. But then we got to go recruit. We got to go get some really good football players. I don't think we're as talented as we'd like to be moving forward.
Steven, I can't allow my mind to go rebuild right now. I can't. I got to think we're close, and maybe we are. Maybe it is just because that offense is going to look very, without Anias, I get it. Without Evan, I get it. But maybe some little tweaks here with Colin Klein, we'll see a difference. Hey, man, Happy New Year. Can't wait to see you here in 2024, buddy. Thanks so much.
Happy New Year, brother. Yeah, you too, man.
See you. Stephen McGee there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, we'll talk a little basketball. I haven't talked to Logan Lee in forever, so let's do it. Let's talk to Logan Lee when we come back here on TexAgs Radio. After that, the fan show guys, they're going early because we got Billy Liucci for the final hour of the program. We're going to wrap up the season. We're going to do every element of that game. That and more here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We are back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Happy New Year, everyone. This will be my last show of 2023. Nick's doing the show tomorrow. We'll have a bunch of dudes, including Nick, next week. So I think Dalton will be doing part of the show. We'll have Richard here. We'll have a lot of Nick, so it'll be fun. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline, talk a little basketball here with my buddy, Logan Lee. Logan, good morning, buddy.
What's happening?
How are you, buddy?
I am doing well. I am glad to say that I am on your last show of 2023.
Hopefully, it's not the last show that I do. Just to be clear with you, how's the holidays been, man? I haven't seen you in a bit.
Holidays are going well. Yeah, we traveled around, saw family, hung out with my parents, hanging out with Katie's parents. Going to see the cousins here in a little while when they arrive, and it's been a whirlwind though. I don't think I was quite ready for it, but they came anyways, and we made do.
As 2023 comes to a close, basketball-wise, and we start conference play next week, or on the January 6th, whatever day it is, I assume I know the answer you're going to give me, but I'm going to allow you to tell me: are they behind or around schedule? What you expected? I know you expected them to be really good this year, but from a record standpoint, from the teams they've played, are they below your expectations or about what you expected?
They're below expectations. However, if we could caveat that with, if you would have told me that they weren't going to have Marble and Radford was going to be injured and not play games against the best teams on the non-conference schedule, then I would probably say that they are on par for what I would have thought. I don't know. I think right now it's just everything's just questionable for me. I know that it's tough losing players when to injury and just not having them available to you and changing the game plan, but at the same time, they got to adjust, and that's part of it. Like every team goes through it, and you've got to figure out a way, and they have to figure out a way right now.
They're not figuring out a way. The lineup keeps changing. Well, it does not necessarily that it keeps changing, but we keep waiting for the new recruits, right? The guys we expected to see. We expected to see more of Boots, but that injury's been a little bit worse than we initially thought. The Julius Marble. Are you with me? Like, there comes to a point where you can't rely on thinking of those guys in the future. You just got to go with what you have.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. When you got to figure it out, you got to figure it out whether you have a full roster or not. And right now, the way that they are playing without Boots and without Marble is not going to get it done. Personally, I think they're going to figure it out. I think they'll be okay. They're a tournament team, and they'll win a lot of ball games. If you were to ask me right now, without Boots and without Marble, where they're going to finish, I still think they'll finish in the top half of the conference and be a tournament team. If you add Boots to the mix, I think they're a 3, 4, or 5 team in the conference, and they're a higher seed in the tournament. I don't expect Marble to be back. I don't expect anything to happen with that. So, to be honest, I should probably stop talking about it, because, in my opinion, at this point, you can't count on anything right now from him.
Yeah, you can't count on it. It's unfortunate. One of the things that Coach Tom Schuberth, your buddy, keeps bringing up, he does not love the shot selection that he's seen this year. Your thoughts on some of those shots and maybe the why behind it?
And that's probably why we were a good team at Paris Junior College. We think the same in a lot of ways, and I don't like the shot selection at all. But here's the main thing that you have to go back to, or that I have to go back to. I didn't like the shot selection last year in the last 10 or 15 games of A&M season. However, they were going in, and you can't argue when they go in. And you look at the second half of the Houston game, I didn't like a lot of the shots that Wade was taking, that A&M, and let me take that back. I didn't like some of the shots that Wade was taking and the team was taking, but they were going in, so you can't argue it at the time. It is what it is, and that's how this team is. And Buzz says it all the time: get a shot off, get the ball on the rim, and give it a chance, and let them go rebound, because this is a good rebounding team. This is a good offensive rebounding team. They attack the glass so hard, and that's part of it. They know that those shots are going to be taken, and so they're ready to go attack. It's part of their offense. It's the team. It's part of what they do, so you can't argue it. Sometimes it goes in, sometimes it doesn't. When it goes in, A&M is tough to stop, and Wade Taylor looks like one of the best players in the country. When it doesn't go in, they don't look horrible. It just feels bad.
Logan, in that just basketball in a nutshell, like those shots, when they're not, it's not sustainable to win games like that, even though we saw it sustained for big stretches. But it's over a course of a season. You're not going to win big games taking those kind of shots.
No, I mean, look at last year. They struggled with Alabama in the SEC championship game in the tournament. They struggled mightily, and they were taking those shots. And it's because Alabama, a top 5 team last year at that point, just put the defense down, started rebounding, and A&M couldn't do anything. Look at the Penn State game. That's what happens, and it can happen at any time against a good team. And you rely on that shot selection to carry you through and help the momentum, when in actuality you should probably be relying all on your defense, and because that's what Buzz's makeup is. We're going to play defense, we're going to rebound, then we're going to get the ball out, and we're going to turn our defense into offense. This year, it has been more of we're relying on our offense to spark our defense, to catapult us into something, and that's not the way that they need to be right now.
Talking to Logan Lee there on the Ryan Foley Law Hotline. Is there a 5 that you've seen this year, a rotation, a group of 5 that you've seen that you think this is our most effective lineup? Obviously, when Boots is out there, he's got to be part of that 5, but it can be with Boots, it can be whatever you see. What's been your most effective 5 that you've seen?
Man, it's going to have to be Wade. It's going to have to be Anderson Garcia. I would put Henry Coleman in there. I would put Hayden Hefner in there. And then whoever else that you want to add to the mix, whether that's Boots or Jace when he's making shots and rebounding. But I don't know, that's where it kind of gets a little questionable of who is that 5th guy that can sustain 20 minutes throughout the course of a game and be productive. And I think that's where you see the inconsistency of this A&M basketball team. One, Wade Taylor has been a little inconsistent in his scoring and in his defense, but because they are a win by committee type team, because they are all about everybody doing their job on every single play, whether it's offense or defense, when you have that inconsistent 5th spot, you struggle at times, because sometimes it could be good and you could be hot, but the next half, the first half of the second half, you're struggling to find who is that player, who can we rely on, and that's where A&M has been so inconsistent, is the fact that they haven't had 5 guys at once for 40 minutes.
Talking to Logan Lee here on TexAgs Radio. When you go back to the Houston game, because I didn't get to talk to you whenever you came in, the heroic performance from Wade, obviously we already established that's not a sustainable option for a whole season. But the one thing it gave me, Logan, was like all right, this guy's had some rough patches this season, but against one of the best defenses he's going to face all year, if not the best, he found a way, which means if others pick up a little bit of the slack, he's going to find more ways.
No, without question. I mean, that is what Houston threw at him defensively is, and what he was able to do against it is nothing short of All-American status. If Wade can do that in a consistent manner again in the SEC, he'll be one of the top 10 best players in the country. That's the type of performance that he had in the second half, and it gives you hope. That's where I look and say, oh, this team could be so good, because even when they weren't at full strength, they took one of the best teams in the country down to the wire, and they were down by 24 to come back to tie the ball game, to get down a little by 5, and then to come back and have a chance to win it with 16 seconds left, and they weren't even at full strength. And so you think about that and you say, okay, so what happens when they are at full strength, when Boots is on the court, and when they have a consistent rotation? Because everybody knows non-conference play, Buzz, even though you find a rhythm, Buzz still doesn't have a consistent lineup to where he's playing 7 or 8 guys. He's still playing 10 guys and throwing them out there, which is part of the reason why A&M can always get better towards the end of the year, is because he continues to shorten his lineup and figure out a better rotation, and an even better rotation, and then the best rotation, and then they're hitting on all cylinders, and everybody looks at them like, man, I don't want to play them in the tournament. They could be really, really good and make a deep run. And that's where they're at. They're still at that spot of, okay, we see flashes, but where's that happy medium of what we're actually going to see consistently night in and night out?
Logan, you know Buzz better than anyone, so we're over here talking a lot about the offense. But what's probably keeping him up at night is sometimes some of the defensive issues, right?
No, for sure. For sure. I think that this team is doing what Buzz is asking them to do, but at times they're just a step slow. Jace Carter may be a step slow. He's not used to it. Eli Lawrence, when he plays, is a step slow because he's not used to it. I think Hayden Hefner has been pretty good at getting to the position he's needing to be. I think Wade Taylor is opening up a little too much, and instead of forcing them to the short corner, sometimes he's given up straight line drives, which throws the entire rotation off. But they're still figuring it out, and to me that's a worry as well. Should they already have it figured out? Should they already be there, especially with as many returners that they have playing? But it's you can rest your head at night knowing that while they are a step slow at times, there isn't a single player out there that is just loafing and not giving it their all. They're trying really hard. They're still going at it at every single possession, both offense and defense. They just have to be taught a little more.
The way Anderson Garcia, Manny Obaseki, Solomon Washington play, they don't play the same way, but they're wired the same way. I think when those three, it's very rare we see all three of them together, but there's not a lot of offense there. Yep, there's a lot of athletic ability. How do they make that work with the fabric of their team?
Man, you are 100% correct in that there's not a lot of offense there, but the athleticism is out of the gym when you talk about those three guys. I don't know how it works. I wish Manny wasn't utilized at the one. When he brings the ball up, I feel like there's less ball movement. There isn't as much passing. I think in the last game, maybe it wasn't the Houston game. Maybe it was the Memphis game. When he brought the ball up the court, there were 3 straight possessions of 0 passes. You know, he dribbled it up, got it down with 22, 23 seconds left, came off a ball screen, went straight into the paint, shot a floater, and made it. Now, here's the thing. He made 3 out of the 4 possessions, I believe, that I'm thinking of, which is okay. You know, they need scoring, but they need ball movement. And when he brings it up, there isn't a lot of ball movement. There isn't a lot of passing. I wish he could play off the ball, get into the flow, and make it happen. Same thing with Solomon Washington. You know, he doesn't bring the ball up, obviously, but if he gets the ball and he's looking to score, he's going to try to score. But if he's not, then he's going to go get a rebound. I feel like Solo knows his role a little more than Manny does. And Anderson Garcia, that kid, there's not enough time to talk about what he means to this team right now. He knows his role. He doesn't force anything. 9 points, 19 rebounds. In the last game, the most rebounds by an Aggie since 1990. I believe 9 of those were offensive, maybe 10 of those were offensive rebounds. He knows what to do. He knows his assignment, and he goes and completes the task.
Talking to Logan Lee here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. I remember, Logan, when I first got to TexAgs, I saw Hayden Hefner play this game, and he's knocking down threes. It was his freshman year, and I was like, man, that guy can shoot. And you're like, actually, that wasn't his game in high school. He was an attacker. He has really evolved into be able to do both now, Logan.
Yeah, he's grown. He's I think between this past offseason, between last year and this year, he was in the gym a lot, and you could tell. Not only does his shot look better, but his confidence. I mean, he's just overflowing with confidence right now, which, you know, you can have a good player with 0 confidence, and he never sees the court. You can have a decent player with a lot of confidence, and he's going to be on the court the majority of the time just because of what he brings to the team in certain situations. I think Hayden Hefner, his confidence has grown because he's worked so hard, and he's been, I mean, not just like this past offseason, but the entire time he's been at A&M, he has worked on his game. I think his shot right now, his catch and shoot, I would rather see him catch and shoot than put the ball on the floor right now. And coming in from high school, you can. I know this is a strange comment to make because Bronny deals with football recruiting and everything football, baseball. But ask Bronny about Hayden Hefner in high school, and he'll tell you that kid can't shoot the ball. He goes and makes a highlight play at the rim. And now you look at him, and I would rather see him catch and shoot because he's making over 40% of his threes, and he's locked and loaded and ready to go.
Anything? How would you evaluate Levesque? Because I feel like when I've seen him out there, he's kind of grown into his spot, and I've been actually kind of happy with his production out there.
Yeah, I think there are 2 things. Both sides, coaching side and player side. The player side, he's getting more comfortable with his role and what he's being asked to do. It's a different ball game from going from UMass to Texas A&M and the style of play. So it's different for him on that side, and he's growing into that role. And I think the coaches are understanding exactly what his capabilities are and where he fits into the team. So they're putting him into better positions. And when he's out there, they're doing things to make sure he's comfortable, and that makes him a better player. It makes A&M a better team. Going into the season, I would have said he's going to play 8 to 10 minutes. With Marble out and the way Anderson Garcia is playing right now, I think he's going to be at 10 to 15 minutes a game, and A&M's going to have to find a way with Garcia and Washington and Coleman to navigate those minutes. Levesque is a good puzzle piece for this team. but I think he caps out at about 15 minutes a game, and that's respectable. Heck, that's great. But they need to figure out the other minutes when he's not on the court.
Talking to Logan Lee here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Logan, last thing for you. Knowing Buzz the way you do, another angle of it, is he coaching this team just from afar away differently than he's coached other teams? Does he kind of change depending on the way the ebbs and flows of a season goes? Because we always see the upward trajectory at the end of the year, but from a personnel standpoint, is there anything different?
I don't think so, and I think that's why we can count on A&M getting better, because he doesn't. Obviously, he's going to change for every team that he has, every roster that he has, but his style and the way that he coaches and the way that he teaches not just basketball but the game of life and the way that they breathe one solid family breath is going to stay the same. And that's what's consistent is he makes sure that his team does everything the right way. He's not going to let them cut corners. He's not going to let them slack off on a play or two and then get back at it. He teaches consistency, and that consistency is in his effort and in the team's effort and in their intensity. And so he's going to stay that way the entire time, no matter if they lose to Houston, Memphis, Virginia, FAU. No matter if they lose those games, he's going to stay consistent, and I think that's why A&M continues to get better because he doesn't adjust in his thought process and in his game plan. He knows what it takes to get from A to Z, and he's not going to skip a step.
Logan, I appreciate you, brother.
It harms you. It harms you sometimes, but at the same time, in the long run, it's been good for A&M. So you got to trust in it right now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Happy New Year. Missed you, man. We'll see you here soon, all right?
Thanks, Nuño. We'll see you.
Later, bro. Logan Lee there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Great analysis, as always. I miss seeing him here in the office all the time. Great to still get him on the show once a week. All right, we're going to hit a break. And I do want to talk about optimism in the next segment. I saw Debbie on the YouTube page with a little bit of optimism, so we'll get into that when we come back. Right now, as the year comes to a close, the Association of Former Students wants to say thank you to you and you and you and all of you out there and the Aggie Network for the generous support throughout the years. They are an independent 501c3 nonprofit organization supporting Texas A&M and the Aggie Network out there. The association would not be able to help out musters across the world, host ring days throughout the year, support A&M clubs, or provide scholarships and assistance to students in need without your generous support. So in this season of giving, would you help the Aggie Network spread some holiday cheer by considering making a gift to the Association of Former Students? Renew your Century Club membership yet. If you haven't done so already, become a first-time member or give the gift of a membership to another Aggie. The association works hard year-round to be there for Aggies that cannot do it alone. To make a gift right now, visit tx.ag/cheer23. Again, that is tx.ag/cheer23. It is TexAgs Radio. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Look, I think being a fan, we're supposed to go high and low, right? But I've been too low for football for too long. It's like years long when you think about how you feel at the end of the season, right? But I was on the YouTube page a minute ago and appreciate all the folks watching on there. And hopefully you guys can like and subscribe. We're really trying to get those numbers up. But Debbie, who watches the show often, I feel, has a negative thought, and that was under the Jimbo regime. And she just said a moment ago, Aggies will win 10 easy next year. I love that optimism because, look, if we can't be optimistic now, and look, I'm not saying 10 wins next year. I don't know jack. You know my philosophy on picking wins. Like, it's I don't know, I guess, right? Like, sure, I could see 10. I could see 5. I could see 9. I can make sense. My mind works in a way where I break everything down so much that it's not even worth going down that route. But if you can't be at least excited about what the future is now, use like the multiverse concept in your head. Like, had the Jimbo regime stayed, where you think it would have gone? And many of you may think it would have gone a certain direction, but there was a change, and I think now they have structure in that building. And I think you've got some accountability in that building that was probably lacking the last few years, right? So considering where you think this thing is going to go, maybe next year isn't great. Maybe it is. But now's the time to be optimistic. Like, all right, I like our coach. That's step one. What does next year look like? I don't know. Like, how can you know? This thing changes so quickly. Like, you could still lose dudes in the portal. You can still add some major chips in the portal, blue chip guys. You could add some great culture guys. You can still add an Anaya Smith type player, 3-star with a lot of potential who goes beyond what we expected, right? So to me, as much as I want to predict win, like I want to, 10 wins, and I was wrong about Jimbo. I was right in the beginning, right? We all were. I think most people were all in, and things were. But when I said it a while back, when you lose your fastball, do you ever get it back? I don't think you do. In fighting, like there's a certain point where you, like UFC stuff, when you lose it, you don't get it back. Conor McGregor isn't going to be Conor McGregor again. Mike Tyson lost it. You don't get it back. Sometimes, I mean, I'm sure there's examples. Not everything is, black and white like that. But for the most part, and now you got a guy who's younger than me as your head coach, who understands this culture, understands what it's like to be not only an Aggie, but what the potential is here, and has seen it done a certain way and can fix it, and is going to bring in the right dudes, not just dudes. We were all excited about the 22 class. Some of it didn't work out. And there are still some dudes. By the way, I don't think we've spent enough time on DJ Hicks. Nice performance. Way to go, DJ. Let's do this. Let's hit a break, and we will absolutely talk some football. We'll probably talk a little bit more basketball with the fan show friends. We'll do that when we come back here on TexAgs Radio. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet. They are on Highway 21 in Caldwell and online at caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. They've got amazing deals there on the website. They put their cars there first. So you can get a kind of a feel for what they have there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It's a place that I highly recommend you go. Start online, get a feel for the vehicles, and see the pricing. But then when you go in person, you're going to be blown away by the customer service experience and the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Great trade-in value. The whole process is great. And then afterwards, they're going to take great care of you with their complimentary pickup for service customers, the valet. It is just top-notch, and it's not a far drive. We're talking 15 minutes, the very edge of Bryan to the beginning of Caldwell. Short conversation away. But you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the good people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, caldwellcountrychevrolet.com. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is now time for the
Fan show. I'm not
You
singing.
guys said it.
Fan show. I'll say it. Fan show.
Fan show. Brought to you by Gerard Construction, custom home builders for the Brazos Valley since 2002. They don't just build homes.
We build relationships.
Oh, you're part of the we?
Yes, I am.
Oh, okay. Learn more at gerard-construction.com. Matt Brown and Kelly Adams. Hey, buddies.
Good morning.
I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
Well, you missed last week, and I missed the week before, and there you go. I miss you, buddy.
I miss you too, Matt. It's been a couple weeks too because you were out of town, then I was out for a couple shows. So
so it's been a minute. So
happy to see you guys.
Good to be back.
All right, let's do what we traditionally do. What's on your mind? We'll start with you, Kelly.
First thing on my mind is, last night's game. I was thinking about this about midway through the third quarter. How bad is the Big 12? Like, geez.
I'm hoping they're real bad.
That's the team that finished
weekend.
second in the Big 12, and our third and fourth stringers played him to the last play of the game.
Hold on. Can I give you a thought, though? Isn't that how we play everybody?
That's a good point. That's valid.
Like, Ole Miss is legit good, guys.
I mean,
Alabama's legit good. We play everybody the same way.
Yeah. We had our fourth string quarterback after the first play of the game. Definitely not the plan. We had a decent offensive line in there. We had 2 starters on defense, I think, is what the announcer said.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we did have good receivers, good running back. I mean, it's not like we were completely depleted, but that was our B group, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
So we finished 5th, 6th, 7th in the SEC. The B group of the 5th best, 6th, 7th best team in the SEC just played the 2nd best Big 12 team, which had everybody to the last play. How bad is the Big 12?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
By the way, I know he's better than what we saw yesterday. Wasn't impressed with Ollie Gordon.
I wasn't either.
I didn't like his yapping either.
There was no point in his yapping.
Yeah, he just wouldn't stop. It was really weird.
I had read so much of him being a good dude, right? I had read, and maybe he is. Like, I mean,
maybe he's having a bad day.
I'm not a good dude on any court or field, right? Like, so
I heard about your basketball game.
Yeah. But yeah, he was out there jawing the entire game.
The entire game.
Yeah,
he wasn't the only one, but he was the most vocal or the most visible.
Like he'd gotten into something with Sam Matthews, and they were like, I mean, Sam Matthews
was that the flop that he did?
Yes, and that was the part that killed me about the flop. Like, dude's yapping after every play. Mr. Tough Guy, right?
Yeah.
Wants to yap with the big 300-pounders. Wants to yap with the linebackers. Sam Matthews looks at him cross-eyed, and the guy goes flying. Because power of the 12th man? I don't know.
Yeah.
But come on, tough guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
What's on your mind, Mateo?
Well, it was, I guess it's the end, kind of the official end of the Jimbo Fisher era here at A&M. And
does it feel like it's only been 6 weeks since he was fired, or whatever? It's been 6.5 weeks, 7 weeks.
It feels like longer, doesn't it?
Let's ask Elko
like
how long it's been.
Feel like it's been a while, but I do want to say that something I noticed with the teams under him, at least, is that they didn't, in that team last night, they didn't quit, did they?
No.
They got down. You lose your.
Only gave up 7 points in the second half.
Yeah, you lose the starting quarterback, or who'd been practicing with all the ones after the first play. And I hope he has a speedy recovery. It looked like they immediately called for the cart, so it probably was like a broken arm.
When you break out that black air cast,
it's
not a good. It's a bad break. It's not a good break.
Something's bad happening there. So that happens, and then they get up big, but they just kept fighting back, and there was no quit in that team. And I noticed that even in a lot of our losses, dumb losses, things that shouldn't have happened over his era, but they didn't quit. So I was pleased to see that. I was pleased to see that. The next group up on that D line looked really good.
Yep.
Brownlow Dindy looked good. David Hicks looked good.
David Hicks looked great, I thought.
Shamar, the Stewart of the Shamars. They looked really good. I mean, Tyrion York is going to be a star.
Beast.
I mean, he is going to be a star.
He's a special kid.
And so watching those guys, and then Moose doing Moose things, the catches. And
how about that one-handed grab?
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was a nice grab.
Best part about that was Coach Elko being in the booth during it.
He goes,
Moose.
That
was awesome.
He did. So it was a fun game to watch. I mean, I don't think any of us cared. I mean, I obviously we want to win, but I mean,
on that last play, I was like, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, a loss isn't the end of the world. I don't think anyone's moping around town today over that.
Is anybody
loss.
in town to mope?
No, that's I do love
perfect
it.
amount of people.
We drove straight here. I didn't encounter.
I didn't get a red light.
I think I saw 6 cars on the entire way here, and it is. You gotta love College Station at Christmas break, man. It is easy.
Probably not great for business.
No, it's not. But
but good for families.
It is. It's nice to be able to just get anywhere you want in a town this size. I mean, there probably aren't many places that just go dead like this for a week or two. A certain time of year, and it is. You can walk into any restaurant. There's no wait. It is. A lot of y'all listening that hadn't been here in a while, y'all remember that, I'm sure.
I don't know if you guys heard me earlier, but did you guys have a similar feel? Like, I could not wait for that game to end, and then I wanted the game to be extended. It was the weirdest thing. Like, they're down 24-6. Like, dude, just have a running clock. I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
Right.
Halftime was
Let's get this over with.
And then the third quarter starts. They get that pick, and you're like, and then
finally,
they score.
because we had what 5 or 6 near picks in the first half,
and then they score.
Yeah,
and you're like, hold up, I want this game to be extended a little bit. And then Amari almost scores, and that broke my heart. Right,
that would hurt. That was a dagger.
And then they had a chance on the last possession of the game. Not a great chance, not high probability, but they had a chance. And I was like, I want a couple more plays, guys.
Yeah, give me just a little more time. It's funny that you say it, because that's it's exactly what I was thinking. I was going. I mean, especially when they missed that field goal, I was like, all right, who knows? Your mind goes back to LSU in 2018, or these miracle plays and stuff, and you're like, okay, who knows? Let's just see what can happen. So it was a fun game to watch. It was a fun ending. It was fun watching some of these guys. A guy like Sam Matthews get to start and get a lot of playing time. He got a pick. He's out there jawing with their Doak Walker Award winner. Did he win the award, or was he the finalist?
No, he won it.
I think he won it. Yeah.
So it was fun watching a lot of that and seeing some of the new guys. We definitely need to work on our
corners,
on our secondary. Yeah.
I thought the approach was not good. Like, everybody, they were running like they never turned around.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's a new thing that they're coaching or not, but that part was certainly concerning.
It reminded me of the LSU game, where LSU they were just chunking the end zone. Those LSU receivers would just go up at the last second and catch it. And I mean,
one thing that I noticed the receivers did in the second half, they gave the quarterback a ton of space against the sideline. So they were running our DBs to the middle of the field, giving them the quarterback an extra 3 or 4 feet to throw the ball, and then they could adjust out towards the sideline and catch it over our guys. And that's kind of a veteran thing.
Yeah.
The fact that they're freshmen and they started the year at 4th, 5th string guys. Those guys. That's kind of what you're going to get.
And
those guys knew what they were doing.
And unlike, even though Marcel Reed, I thought, played really well, getting thrust in that situation.
He was awesome.
But their quarterback he would throw it to where they gave him a chance.
Right, he throws it over our guy's head towards the sideline. They could veer out and catch it.
Just throw it up and give him a chance. But we would, a lot of times this year, we would throw it way downfield, way past, not give our guys a chance a lot of times.
About Marceau, I think, have you all, because I know Nick Savage has gone through this, been thrust into a situation where you're mentally, like, what to do, but you weren't expecting to be the guy doing it out of the blue. Nick 2 weeks ago had to come in and host a show 10 minutes before because I couldn't come in. He's a broadcaster. He's really good at it. But there's like a moment of, oh, snap. The way Marcel Reed took that opportunity.
He did.
And he seemed like he was the one getting the ones, right?
Yeah.
And this is after Jalen Henderson seemed like he was the one getting the ones when he,
because that first play looked really nice.
It did.
It looked really nice.
Some of his throws, not so pretty.
And needs to work on the ducks.
But
his first throw of the game.
Oh,
he had 4 or 5 ducks in there, but man, he's electric.
But I mean, he's 18 years old? Can you imagine being 18 and being, and doing that in that stadium and that environment?
And they caught a couple of the ducks too.
When you weren't expecting it?
Let me read this ball of optimism. Callan Stevenson on the YouTube page. Are we pretending that all of this youth and inexperience will be different in the first game against Notre Dame? Well, let's talk about that in parts, okay?
Okay.
We don't know what Shamar Turner's future is going to be, okay? We also don't have the new transfers in. We also don't have Connor Wigman out there.
He makes a difference.
Yeah.
Right? We also don't know what an O-line coaching philosophy change will do for the team. We also don't know what the Mike Elko influence will be different for this team. We don't know what the Tommy Moffitt strength and conditioning program will do for this team. we don't know the veterans that we're getting through the portal that will help this team. So, sure, if those guys go out there next year and are your starting lineup, again, Marcel Reed, your fourth quarterback, and all the other, and you've got walk-ons on the team. Sure, that'll be a problem.
No Noah Thomas, no Donovan Green, no. I mean, there was a lot of guys that didn't play.
Yeah.
And they, so yeah, you're going to have a lot of experience come back, but.
And there are questions, Callan.
Yeah. I will say this,
but we don't know the final roster yet.
In relationship to winning and losing against Notre Dame at this moment, like there's going to be a lot of growing pains. Like I would rather have the Patsy the first game of a new coaching staff. Like Freeman's been there a couple years. All those guys know what's going on. They've got veteran guys. So there's first game jitters, first game mistakes. They're going to have less. They'll have some, but they'll have less. We've got new coach, new guys, transfer guys, younger guys that were injured this year that are coming back. In relationship to winning and losing against Notre Dame, it's going to be hard just because we're all new stuff and we're going to have a greater amount of first game mistakes that happen. Like when Johnny played quarterback that first game against Florida.
Yeah.
His second game, he looked a million times. He looked good against Florida, but he looked a million times better in the second game because the first game looks like that. So against Notre Dame, there's going to be some of that. But there's a lot of room to look good.
And I will say, too, in the modern era of college football, we see teams literally every single year completely be turned around through the transfer portal and new guys coming in. So we've literally seen that across the board.
It's our turn.
Without the portal, Texas wouldn't be where they are right now. There's a lot of teams that I mean, Florida State wouldn't be where they were. Ole Miss wouldn't be where they were last year because of the transfer portal.
Where would LSU be without the transfer quarterback?
Exactly. So yeah. So that's not a great state.
I thought it was my job to be negative.
But to Callan's point, there are a lot of I don't knows.
There are.
Sure.
But I don't know. I don't necessarily want to go. They're all going to be young, inexperienced walk-ons, right?
Yeah,
You're going to have 80 when the season starts, right?
20 extra practices and an extra game against somebody who's good. It helps.
Hayden says the ceiling is 7-5. My God, like that's just what we did.
I thought that was my job to be negative.
Well, they will write about you.
They will. Yeah. That's okay.
We'll hit a break. When we come back here on TexAgs Radio, more with the fan show guys, and I'll just ask them some positive stuff and some negative stuff so we can appease everyone. By the way, we are in the Rollo Insurance Studio, the official insurance provider of TexAgs Radio. The difference is real. Rollo can write any form of insurance to anyone in Texas and several other states, as well as they have 45 offices in the great state of Texas. Headquarters on Highway 6 here in College Station. Call 888-44-ROLLO or go to rolloinsurance.com. And we're back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is the fan show brought to you by who?
Gerard Construction.
Thank you, guys. Most troubling thing in 2023 for you. Matt, you go first.
Most troubling thing in 2023 for me was the, God, where do we start with that?
You got to pick one. You get one, and then Kelly has to go different.
Just I guess going from last season to this season, or from 2022 to 2023, the lack of being much better, I guess you could say. I mean, with the talent, having that much talent on the team, and having a 7-6 record.
Yep,
that's tough.
I got two things I was incredibly disappointed in. The first one was we said all summer long that if Jimbo let Petrino do his thing, the offense would be great. And we know now that Jimbo never let him do his thing. Petrino had to do Jimbo's thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty disappointing because it didn't have to be that way. And the second one was special teams.
Yep.
Like, even despite the offense, what it was, the defense played pretty good. If we could just play a clean special teams game consistently, we'd have won one or two more games. Like, it still wouldn't have been great. I wouldn't be sitting here going, we're fantastic. But don't miss field goals. Don't kick the ball out of bounds. You know, some of those don't get field goals blocked. Some of those kind of things that, like,
for me, the most disappointing thing was the offensive line.
Yeah, that would have been on the list too.
Well, and then a quick side note was going from 2022, where you're one of the best pass defenses in the country. Now, I know those numbers are a little skewed when you're bad and you're behind and everybody starts running the ball on you to burn clock. I get that. But to go from one of the best passing defenses in the league to what we saw this year, the secondary really took a step back.
Yep.
And so,
best thing to come out of 2023?
Regime change.
Good answer.
Mm-hmm.
Having to go different, I would give Durkin a lot of credit in the coaching of the linebackers.
Okay.
The linebackers.
Torian York, baby.
Torian York and Edge Cooper.
Yeah.
In 2022, the linebackers were plumb stinking awful. And Durkin took that position group over, and they got a million times better. Now, I know a lot of people are against Durkin for three-man rush and a lot of those kind of things. I'm taking that out of it. I'm just talking about the vast increase in linebacker play with the same guys and a true freshman. And all we did was change the coach. That's pretty good coaching.
And I think this needs to be said. Edgerrin Cooper had one of the best seasons as a linebacker I think in A&M's ever had.
Yeah, he was amazing.
I mean, he was up there. I mean, now, had he done this for his entire career, he'd be
his freshman year, he looked like he could have done it.
He'd be mentioned in the same breath as a Dat Wynn or Quentin Coriat or Marcus Buckley or any of those kind of guys, right? He didn't, but this year was as good a year at linebacker as A&M has ever seen. He was that good this year, and I think he gets some credit, but I don't think he gets enough for as good as he was this year.
And like I say, he had flashes when he was a freshman, and then sophomore year, all the linebackers as a whole were just plumb awful. And then this year, the linebackers, they were fantastic.
They were great. Another thing that I think we got to take away is you don't have to be a 5-star to be great.
Mm-hmm.
Torian York wasn't.
That win wasn't.
Ja'Day Walker.
Well, they didn't have it, but he still wasn't.
Right? Like, Ja'Day Walker's story to me is awesome.
Yeah.
Right? Moose could have transferred.
I appreciate
that guy. Probably should have transferred.
Yeah. I appreciate that guy for sticking around.
Right?
I really do.
And whatever happened in the old regime, all I know is when I watch that dude on the field, he makes freaking plays.
He does.
Yes, he does.
And the fact that that while, I mean, the early part of the year, I mean, we barely ever threw the ball to him, which is just crazy.
He barely ever got on the field.
Gentlemen, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Thank you. It was good to see you both.
Good seeing you too, buddy.
Thank you very much. When we come back on TexAgs Radio, Billy Liucci. We will break down this game. We will break down this season. We will look ahead. We will also talk about the college football playoffs, and we'll maybe even take some of your questions. I know I haven't been good to the text line. I will do that here momentarily. It is TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 3 here on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Looking back at the 23 season, looking ahead, breaking down the Texas Bowl from last night. Let's go straight to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Billy Liucci, TexAgs co-owner and executive editor, joining us here on the program. Good morning, Billy.
David, how are you?
I'm okay. So here's my thought to kind of set you up today. Yesterday's game almost felt like a microcosm of A&M's season. They did just enough to make you feel like they could win that game, and then they couldn't make the final play. Yet I left yesterday not with a moral victory, but just proud of those dudes. And I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, I agree with you with the proud of the guys that played part. That we talked about it the other day with some of the A&M superstar players that have, back in the day, every star player was playing in a bowl game. Times were different. Here recently, we mentioned guys like Johnny and Mike and Jake Matthews and guys like Miles and Christian. Someone like, who was it a couple years ago Devon A-Chain, not in a bowl game, but in that LSU game. We noticed things like that in a day and age and an era where guys, a lot of times in their position, aren't playing, whereas older players would go, well, I've never even thought about it. So times change as we go. In bowl games like this, there are a couple guys on that A&M roster, and you don't want to speculate and say who, because I think it is something that kind of can stick with you and be kind of damning. Like, hey, remember when that guy did that? Whether you're at A&M or, playing somewhere else or in the NFL, it's a bad look. There are guys not just on the A&M side probably, but on other teams in bowl games this year too, where if you don't play and you do intend on coming back, whether that's an injury that maybe you could have played through and decided not to, whether, again, it's each one, but it's more, it makes the guys that do go out there and say, no, you know what? This is a bowl game. It's in front of a lot of our fans. It's another chance to play football. I'm going to do it. And so those guys that did it, look, that was a depleted team like very few we've ever seen before at A&M. I thought A&M was about to be at that point like LSU was a couple of years ago, where they had a receiver playing quarterback. When Marcel goes in and gets hit on like his second play, I'm like, no, what are we running the quarterback for here? But look, I don't think Oklahoma State's very good. They had a number 20 ranking by their name. They played for the Big 12 championship. They don't suck. They've got a great running back. They've got a great head coach, and they've got some good players. Obviously, they got receivers that can find the football and make catches if you throw it up to them. Most notably, the two that combined for like 30 catches. But look, playing a championship caliber team or anything, but that's a solid Power 5 football team they played last night, and they played them down to the wire. And more impressive to me, David, was if I'd have watched that whole game and been like, okay, Oklahoma State's horrific. They're absolutely terrible, and they don't want to be here either, then playing them close wouldn't have meant anything to me. But Oklahoma State had them to where you're starting to worry a little bit about, man, did that little change there at the end of the half where it looked like they could go in 17-13, but instead we're down 24-6. Did that late touchdown by Oak State break their back? And they're getting the ball to come out in the third quarter. And for that defense to hold Oklahoma State to 7 second-half points and for the Aggie offense to kind of come to life the way it did, I think it said quite a bit about the guys in that locker room. And obviously we're going to talk about some specific examples, but just the actual team aspect of it. And we said it all year, This was not a good football team, but this was not a team that quit and laid down. And all the guys that were more prone to do that are no longer in the program, and it showed last night at Energy.
Yeah, it did. Let's talk about the QBs. And I don't know if you want to start with Jalen Henderson or if you want to do Marcel first, but obviously the Jalen Henderson injury, just my goodness, man, it is so predictable, or not predictable, but just it's happened so much. Your quarterback going down.
Yeah.
It looked like the kind of injury, had it happened mid-season, he would have been gone for a long time. Just horrible, man.
Well, from my angle, where we were on the sideline, I just saw what looked like his legs got taken out from under him, and they got that cart out there so quickly. I was going, that sucks on a whole nother level, because you're talking about an ACL type thing, catastrophic knee injury, where it didn't just affect, like you said, you're not playing football next year either because of the timing of it, because it happened in a bowl game. Then it was almost some sort of relief that it was, did they ever say specifically, but his arm as opposed to a leg? Because like I said, I couldn't see around some of the A&M players right where that happened, and I saw the replay, and it's almost, you don't want to say this guy's probably in a lot of pain today. No telling if he's going to need, probably would need surgery. You don't want to say it's nothing, because it's not, but I will say, thank goodness it wasn't a leg injury. That hopefully that doesn't cost him into next season, because he's one of my favorite guys to cover. We did that interview a couple weeks ago. He's just a breath of fresh air. What he's meant to that locker room, the program, his story. So I think, like most Aggies, that just made you really, to see that just kind of ripped your heart out there for a minute. And oh, by the way, you're one play in and you're going to your fourth string quarterback. But I'll tell you this, David, and I said it then, and I've been saying it for a few weeks now about Marcel Reed. I've been saying it, I've liked him since they signed him, but I was not scared that the A&M offense was gonna be a nothing burger with Marcel Reed leading the way. That thought did not cross my mind, because I know what the guys in the program have been saying about him. I know what Connor Wigman said about him when he came in and sat with me the other day. I know what the kid's made out of in terms of his mentality. I think from the very jump, when he first got here, I said he's turning heads just in how he's answering questions in meetings. Just how quickly he's grasping Bobby Petrino's offense and kind of operating at a senior veteran level along with guys like Max and Connor, like overnight. That stuff's really impressive, and it tells you a lot. I don't know. We're going to go down the list here, but 360 yards, almost 400 yards of total offense. He throws the interception on a Hail Mary there at the end, but what an incredible performance. Just actually incredible. And I'm happy for him, happy for his dad, his family. I know they're great people too. And, they stuck through the coaching change, and I think they're fired up about Marcel and how he fits with Colin Klein. And if I'm Colin Klein watching, I go, okay, I have some stuff to work with here at quarterback. Between 15 and now all of a sudden you've got a guy in Jalen Henderson that beat Mississippi State and played 3 quarters of outstanding football in Death Valley, and you've got all of a sudden this guy that comes in as a true freshman in a bowl game and goes for almost 400 yards of offense. So, and by the way, I don't know if you saw his first pass closely, but I was actually standing by Johnny at the time. He said, "That's just nerves." And he goes, "I can remember against Florida, my first game, like I had no control over where the ball went in the first quarter." He's like, just zero, none. Then he also said, "No, I'll also never criticize someone for wobbling pass in my life." I said, your best pass ever was a wobbler, the Malcolm Kennedy there. But I thought Marcel, that effort was that was incredible. It really was. I mean, imagine being Mike Gundy and you're like, okay, these guys, it's unfortunate, but we're going to boat race them. They lost QB3, and now they're coming in as QB4. He's never played. We're going to dial up pressure on him. We're going to do so. Marcel was he had to be sitting there going, "What is the deal with this kid?" And also, let's give a little credit to James Coley and Jim Chaney. I mean, and that offensive staff for I mean, you didn't lose just Connor Wigman and Max Johnson. You're without Jalen Henderson one play in. You're without position coaches all over the place. You had guys, and Anaya Smith is coaching. I mean, I saw him before the game. He's in his coaching uniform out there. And for them to kind of recover and put together the kind of offensive performance they did, which wasn't, on the scoreboard, the 23 points isn't incredible, but damn, man, they moved the ball, and they certainly moved it throughout the second half. And some really clever plays, too, I thought, along the way.
Billy, isn't it amazing, though, that this team has the ability to be one step away from a blowout to one step away in the same game from winning that said game?
Say that again?
This team in the same game is one play away from being blown out, right? Like, that's what it feels like. 24-6, another touchdown, it's a wrap, right? And the second half started that way.
Yeah, for sure.
But like Ole Miss, like last night, they're also a play away from winning that same game.
Yeah. That's effort. And look, we all know this program needs more of that. They need to taste winning those games more too, though. They've gotten too used to losing. They've gotten too used to coming up just short. And that's not the only reason why we've got a new head coach, but look, it's a big part of it. I mean, close losses are losses. Last night was a loss, but I think it's the type of loss that you can really, really learn a lot about these players and these guys moving forward. Like, I mean, how many Aggies right now want to hire Sam Matthews? Because as much as I'd love to see it, I don't think the guy's playing NFL football. I mean, I guess there's crazier stories, but how many Aggies would raise their hand and go, I'll take that guy right now? 12th man, lining up, starting at safety, going up against the best running back in college football, 14 tackles, an interception. I mean, he's going to go down as one of the 12th man legends, I think, because of this. Yeah. I mean, the 12th man's never done that, right? I mean, Gilly played fullback and did a great job of it and got drafted, so he's obviously iconic, forever immortalized. To start and play an entire game on defense as a 12th man and produce the way he did. Like, I don't remember if Michael Hodges was a 12th man by the time he started starting. I just remember Hodges is 37. That's the number. I see him flying all over the field. And essentially that's what guys like him were, But, I mean, just to kind of be thrown out there, essentially, like you said, literally at a moment's notice, just not long before the game day, and to go out there wearing that number and play the way he did, I mean, that was heroic stuff right there.
I'm just amazed the way he was able to go out there and just look like he had been there for a while. But, Billy, unfortunately, a couple things that have plagued this team all season long was the secondary. And wide receivers routinely had career days, like astronomical numbers. And yesterday you had two dudes over 100. It was that just kind of, I don't think it changes. Maybe it changes. I don't know how to say that, but
I think it changes it.
Does it?
If I'm Mike Elko, I might come away. Well, it goes two ways. If I'm Mike Elko and I'm watching that game, I'm having more faith in my guy, in Ish Aristide, to coach those corners up and Elko to be involved. Like, if I'm Mike Elko, I'm going, okay, I'm going to coach those guys. I'm going to have Ish coaching them. I believe in Ish, and trust me, they're going to have a really good position coach there in Ish. But, so, like, I'm probably watching things going, man, that's just bad technique. How many times did we see it this year where those guys were there to make a play? And even on that catch the guy made last night, an incredible catch, right? And you go, damn, that was good coverage. It was an incredible catch. But you waved your off arm, you waved it, and you waved it at air as the ball was going past you and into the guy's hands. It's not bad coverage, but it's like you think a hand or an arm, and they had 2 picks in, Matthews and Dalton Brooks, which was awesome. And I think Dalton's going to be a really good player for A&M at safety or nickel, but you'd think their hands would find a football once in a season. And I mean, I'm exaggerating, but people that watch this team understand the exaggeration is to make an obvious point. Like, how many times against Ole Miss and Alabama and last night at the LSU were they in pretty good coverage, but could never turn around and find the football? Almost never on the corners. Almost never. Miami, 4 of their 6 losses this year, David, you could go straight. I know the offense was an issue in some of those for sure, but you could go straight to opposing wide receivers versus A&M corners if we're doing key matchups like at the end of games, and they just got absolutely torched. And the safeties were part of it too. A lot of times they're too slow getting over. You'd see that some with Damani. You saw it, infamously said, and it got the LSU masses stirred up. You saw it with Jordan against Miami in that game. It was costly. You saw it throughout the whole season, just a step slow in getting there. So I think if I'm Mike Elko, I'm looking at that and I'm going, the receivers aren't getting any worse in this conference, and they're better than those Oak State guys. Although those Oak State guys last night were really good, and they took advantage. They knew the matchup, and look, and credit Robinson too. They had two walk-ons starting in the safety in the secondary for A&M last night. But I would certainly look at that, I think, and maybe go, whatever the number was I thought I was adding in the portal at corner, I might bump that thing up 1 or 2, because and it might be that Javon Thomas ends up being a stud at corner, or Ravion Rogers. These guys are true freshmen, right?
Right.
But you can't go into a season with those guys and Sam McCall and just say, we're going to roll with these guys and Will Lee, who I really like out of K-State. But they're not going to do that. That's not how they're going to do it. But I would think that you've got to be sitting there going, man, we really need. If one of these young guys ends up starting, great, but it's going to be because they beat out really good players to get there. And it's just going to mean that they made tremendous strides. But to go in and think that's how you're going to feel confident going into next season, there ain't no way. There's no way. And that was a mistake A&M made last year. You and I talked about it. I talked about it ad nauseum heading into the season. And quite frankly, I think that position of weakness played a massive role in 4 of their 6 losses this year. And I'm not even counting LSU. Imagine you just had quality corners. And by the way, the guys that opted out went in the portal, and maybe they would have done a little better. They would have done better, but they made their choice. They went in the portal, and I'm not sure at that position, with as bad as it was this year, I'd take, if any of those type guys wanted to come back like Chase Besantis did, I think I'd say no. I think I'd say no thanks. We're trying to get better than you.
Billy, let's hit a break here. We're going to come back and just want to talk about some guys that weren't there that you aren't talking about there, and just kind of talk about what the future could look like there. We'll do that. We'll put Billy on hold there.
I don't even know what you just said, but there were a lot of theirs in there.
How about this? Shamar Turner, Le'Veon Moss. I'm going to ask you about those 2 guys when we come back.
All
right. We'll put Billy on hold there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. We'll come back with more. It is TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. Welcome back into TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Hour number 3, we're working on getting Billy on a different line. We'll get to that here in a moment. Appreciate those of you texting the program right now. A couple different things to get into. Jason and Brian sends in, as it opens up slowly. Where does it say? Coach Elko coached against Notre Dame at Duke. He should be very familiar with what they do. Look, scheming and getting ready for a big opponent, I ain't worried when it comes to Coach Elko. Not worried about it at all. There's no doubt about that. That's one thing that I think he will have that defense ready to play. I think the big thing is how long does it take to establish your culture around, and the other thing is getting your types of players. I don't think they're that far off. I mean, there are those that love to, look at the 12 wins in the last 2 seasons and, misfiring, obviously, right, the last couple of years. But there is something to be said about how close this team has been, and I think some coaching changes, which we're seeing from the staff, a different philosophy in 2 areas, most importantly, the offensive line. That is, to me, the most important thing to fix, and the secondary. You can't guarantee fixing it, but a slight upgrade. Look, and I think the talent is there on the O-line. I think there's talent there at cornerback. It's just young talent, and we got to develop them. So we certainly got to figure that part of it out. If you want to talk to us while we figure out the whole Billy situation, I can't read what's being said on the on the chat there behind the scenes. You can call us up, or you can text us at 979-693-1150. Nick will let me know when we have Billy in some way, shape, or form. As we continue on the text line, Trey and Brian, what's up, buddy? Happy New Year to you as well. And Bosis in Katy says, hey, guys, do you know why Moss did not play? Broadcast that he decided in the last minute to play for some personal reasons. If it's personal reasons, I don't know. I know that that's what was reported. I will talk to Billy about that. I am not necessarily sure the why on that whole thing. Maybe he's dealing with something. So we'll allow it to be personal in the meantime. I know that Shamar Turner and Billy did report yesterday that he was still really considering going the NFL route, and that was part of the process of not coming out there. Tayag in Taylor says, is Boots ever coming back? Will he be the same player when he gets back? Feels like this team needs him back big time. Yeah, I expect him to be back. Now, Logan Lee earlier said he didn't expect Julius Marble to be back, but I do expect Boots to be back. It was like a chest contusion, made it hard to breathe. He played in 1 game after that injury, and obviously was having some complications from that. So because of that, we are not sure when he will be ready to roll. I am assuming he will not play in the next game on the 30th and be ready to roll there for that first game against LSU. That's my opinion. I haven't been told that. I just think with enough time to kind of heal and get his rhythm back from a basketball perspective, I think we'll see him there. But that's not reporting. That is just me doing deductive reasoning. G sends in, the current roster players who chose not to play in the Texas Bowl and help their team should now be at the bottom of their barrel. I don't care who they are or talent. Look, every situation is individual. Every situation, right? That is the bottom line. Every situation is individual. If you are ready for the next phase in your life and you don't see value in a bowl game that, frankly, a lot of the fans didn't see value in, I can't get that mad at you. But I do think there is something to say about brotherhood and leaving your dudes hanging, right? And finishing out something that you started. We had a conversation with the twins the other day. One of them was playing a video game, and he was losing, and it was towards the end, and he wanted to quit. And my brother-in-law was like, nah, you finished that game. You finish everything you start. So that's how I kind of look at it from a roster perspective. If you don't, hey, guys, by the way, let's get Billy on the mobile, and while that we wait on hold for his hotel room. Let's do that. But to me, that is the most simplest of things, right? Now, if you're going to the NFL draft, I think I in today's world, I get it. If you're going in the portal, I get it. I would have loved some of those guys to maybe consider the portal after the bowl game. I get it. But opting out to opt out, I think, and when I say I get it, I don't necessarily agree. I understand we're in a different world of college football. I get it. It's not for me. It's not my generation out there, right? But that's where we are in college football, unfortunately. And as Billy said yesterday on the show, you can't just change, by snapping your fingers like the way it used to be. This is where we are now. We are here now because of it, right? And by the way, guys, we can call Billy, I think, at the break because we got about a minute and a half before we go to break. So we'll get Billy there at 10:30. We'll find him a different way. But I am interested in knowing what Shamar Turner's future is going to be. And I don't know if we're going to know today, right? I'm interested to know what happened with Le'Veon Moss. So hopefully it's just something he's dealing with and he'll be back soon enough. And hopefully everything's good with his family and whatnot. But everybody makes their decisions for different reasons. One thing that to me stood out, like when it comes to talent evaluations and player evaluations, I think Max Johnson is a good quarterback and is going to do a nice job at North Carolina. But when the offense got stale here, and the offensive line had their issues, I think it was a little weird to not have looked at Jalen Henderson a little bit earlier because of what he was able to do, his mobility, his ability to run. Is that Billy on hold? Because if we're about to hit a break. Let's do that. Let's hit a break here. We'll come back with Billy. But you understand my point about player evaluations. And it was just when the offense was stuck in neutral for so long, and you have those guys, those two gentlemen who looked incredible down the stretch, how they didn't get a look. All right, we'll hit a break. We will come back with Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. And we are back, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Let's go to the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Back with Billy Liucci here after that we fumbled that exchange. Billy, hello, sir. Back to you.
Well, I think it was the hotel had them on hold for a long time down here in Houston, but it's a nice hotel, so we won't complain much. David, you were saying.
I was talking about, so yesterday on the broadcast, they mentioned Le'Veon Moss decided before the game to not play because of a personal decision. That made folks kind of freak out, as you can imagine. And I'm not asking you to, calm everybody's nerves, but is there anything you've heard about that?
Well, no. And I'll tell you what, I know he hasn't been practicing a bunch. I stated that coming in that, look, they're going to have Amari Daniels, they're going to have Reuben Owens perfectly available, and Le'Veon Moss was practicing, then he wasn't. I don't believe that that's anything transfer portal related. I don't think Le'Veon is one I would say is, I don't get the vibe anyway, I don't think he's a threat to go in the portal anytime soon. I think he's going to give the new coaching staff a shot. He's going to go through spring ball. His intention is to return. But I don't know how much of this was that he's banged up related. So I don't want to speculate too much on that right now. But I don't think, just to say one thing, I don't think Le'Veon's about to go in the portal or anything like that. I think he's locked in. He's going to go through spring ball. I do think he was dealing with some physical shortcomings. Let's just say, injured. I don't know to what extent, but enough maybe to where it just made him feel like he was uncomfortable playing. So, and again, these guys, and I don't understand why. It was almost like someone will correct me, but I know they'll be correcting me because this is what people do when maybe I say something that they don't want out there. But they were almost like given the option of it's almost like, okay, if you don't want to play, we understand. Even for guys coming back. Now, the majority of them played. But I do think that encourages guys that, hey, if you're a little banged up, maybe don't go. And that's not Mike Elko's way. I can promise you that. That's certainly, I can tell you, there's a new guy downstairs in that weight room that it's certainly not going to be his way. So, and I don't know who was, who's legit hurt, who was kind of just being cautious, let's say. And I think there was a little bit of that going on with a guy or two.
Yeah. Shamar Turner, you have been reporting for a while that he's kind of contemplating NFL or not. Is that still in limbo, you think?
Yeah, I think it is. I still think Shamar will return, but I also think Shamar hasn't made a decision yet. So that's just almost like a prediction from me, just based on kind of where it's leaning, but it's kind of gone back and forth more than once during this downtime. But I think Shamar is more likely to return, which I'm excited about the D line.
DJ Hicks
and Dindy. Yeah, DJ Hicks looks like a man, and Dindy and Shamar Stewart, and if you get Shamar Turner back, Rylan Kennedy made a couple plays. Malik Silla played a lot, so got his, the most experience he's gotten going into next year. He's actually going to have, a little bit of experience under his belt and going into year 3. We'll see how he develops under a new strength and conditioning staff. And, Tommy Moffitt could get a guy like him right real quick, because he's done that a lot of times at LSU with those guys that needed to add 10, 15, 18 pounds of bulk. He's more than capable of doing that with Malik Silla. So you get those guys, and especially if they could go add like a Nick Scorton, and then you think about where that D-line's at, that's a position you'd feel really good about. You'd feel really good about that spot.
Billy, let's turn our attention now to. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do one more here. I have one more thing for you here. one more calm the nerves of people. One of the things that I heard today was like, how much different is our roster going to look, with all these young players that played in the bowl game next season? And my answer to that is, well, that's TBD, but it's going to look different. You're going to have 80 scholarship players at that point.
Yeah, it's going to look a lot different. You're going to have this class. You're going to have the transfer portal guys, and they're not done in the portal either. You're going to have some guys back, obviously, that were out of action yesterday because they're hurt. Namely, your starting quarterback, your starting tight end, and Donovan Green. You're going to have who else was out? Well, probably Le'Veon Moss, Jacoby Matthews. You had a lot of dudes out of action in that one that will be available next season. Now, with that said, you've got to start. Noah Thomas is a pretty significant one as well. I want to see Noah Thomas start making those catches opponents did to A&M this year routinely every week. And I think with the deep passing game that Colin Klein has no problem taking those shots down the field, I think Noah Thomas should be a guy that you circle and go, he needs to stay healthy and break out. I'll say this. I get what they're saying. There were a lot of guys out there yesterday that probably need to watch tape, that are sitting there negotiating for every NIL penny they can get, that probably need to go watch tape of that bowl game, that are coming back and that did play a lot this year that did not play well. It's not like everybody played well. You lost. Like, at some point, if you're putting on the Maroon and White, you got to get tired of losing. You got, I would still be embarrassed if I lost to. I don't think they should be embarrassed, but if I was a player, I would be. Walking off that field, I'd say I lost tonight. I don't care how many tackles I made or how many yards I accounted for, or if I made a couple tackles or not. Like, I don't care. I lost a football game. I don't care that we're shorthanded. I was in a fight, and I lost the fight. And I'm getting tired of saying that about A&M teams in general, across all sports. I get more excited for the spring sports. Obviously, they're doing some really nice things over there. And I'm excited about some of the young coaches in sports like volleyball, and women's basketball, and, that Slosh is only going in year 3. He's obviously already accomplished a lot, but like, it's time for A&M to start. I heard the commercial break, and I heard Ross's plan for the sports, and one of the big things for this year was to be more, competitive across the board. And I'm like, yeah, that's where we're at. Like, it's. I know Mike Elko feels that way. I know he's sitting there feeling pressure of saying, hey, A&M football can't be this mediocre for this long. It just can't be. And he comes in with his hands tied. He's probably counting the days till next week once that portal finally closes so he can really get going, right? But, man, this place, for what they commit in terms of resources, we always talk about football, but it's across the board. And athletically, for a while now, they've underachieved as a department. And that goes, this is not a, hey, let's point the arrows at Ross here, because, again, look at some of the hires he's made here recently. I'm fired up about Elko. We know what Slosh did. You got, Garrett Chadwell. You got, I mentioned the other sports already where you've got new coaches. He's doing a good job with these hires. They're early on, but they have to hit. They do have to hit. And it's like, this goes back, it predates Ross. It's really almost like since Bill Byrne, where A&M has been across the board, a standout, high scoring. I don't give a damn about the Director's Cup, but it on some level, it does at least tell you, hey, this is a high performing athletic department. And A&M needs, and last night just reminded me, because I felt proud of those guys, and I was the guys that went out there. I'm like, they can hold their head up high. They can hold their head up high walking off the field. They represented A&M well. They represented the fan base. They represented their fellow students, and it was something to be proud of. But at the same time, thank you. at the same time you played in a bowl game, the Texas Bowl again. You know, you ended the Fisher tenure in Houston. You ended the Sherman era in Houston. Sumlin was in Houston. You know, they just. And I'm singling out Houston. That's a good bowl. That's a fun bowl. It's well run. It's a great stadium. It doesn't feel like a lower, meaningless in terms of, college, the big picture of college football, right? But it doesn't feel like that because there's so many A&M fans that go when the Aggies play. Never mind the fact that they're 7-5 or 6-6 when they went, under Sherman. Never mind that. The Aggie fans are going to turn out. It's a great atmosphere. It's fun. It's a fun time in Houston. But you're playing a bowl game in Houston when 2 weeks from now Texas might be playing a bowl game in Houston. And I don't think I need to make the comparison because there is none to be made. So when that happens, if that's not an eye-opener, I don't know what is. And football's got to be, I hope basketball and then baseball this spring. And I didn't mention Trish Ford and her first year at softball too is really encouraging and exciting. But I hope basketball right now, followed up by baseball, really gets us feeling good about stuff. But at the end of the day, this football program has got to have a higher standard and a higher level of expectation, not just in that locker room, but create it for the fans as well. Create it for the people that you're going and asking to help in NIL, because they are going to help now, and they're going to help early, and they're going to help on the front end. But if you want to keep it going and actually, God forbid, build that thing into a monster, then keep winning. Start winning and keep winning, because nothing's going to fire fans up and donors and people that matter around here, and nothing's going to get them down more than football. It's always been the case. It's never going to change. So they need to, it was time for change. And after last night, you closed the book on a 6-year tenure that, you felt like it was close as it's ever been, but it didn't happen.
Billy, one final thought.
And it got worse from there.
One final thought before we hit a break. I thought, and tell me what you think about this, I think they did pretty well against Ollie Gordon, except for a few plays. Like, for the most part.
Yeah.
But he did have those big plays. I mean, he did have numbers.
Yeah, 116 yards on what, 20-something, was it 27 carries, or was he? He didn't.
27.
What? How many?
118 yards on 27 carries.
Yeah, that's workmanlike. That's what a really good back does against a defense that's designed to stop him. That's what a really good back does. But I didn't feel like Ollie Gordon took over the game. I didn't feel like Ollie Gordon. I felt like their receivers making plays was the difference. I actually felt if there's one difference in that football game, it was, there was a really costly fumble there, obviously, down there at the 1-yard line. That was probably the biggest play of the game, if you're talking about a single play. And they, they let Oak State execute a drive that probably on multiple occasions should have never happened there at the end of the half. That was really costly. But if you're watching that football game, you go, what was the biggest difference? It was not Ollie Gordon by any stretch. And he had a good game. And, again, I don't have any level of disdain or disrespect for Oklahoma State and what Mike Gundy's done up there. And look, he doesn't have to make any excuses for beating a depleted A&M team, because what happened to his roster last year is criminal in college football today. It's an indictment of everything that's wrong with college football. The amount of attrition that they suffered after what he has done up there in Stillwater, and stayed despite coaching offer after coaching offer, and then to have it just wash out the way it did, that had to be really demoralizing for Gundy and his staff, and they hung in there. They got embarrassed a couple times this year, yet looked up and they beat Oklahoma. They're playing for the Big 12 title. He doesn't have to make any apologies or excuses, or he doesn't have to apologize for beating a depleted A&M team. And Ollie Gordon's a hell of a back. But Ollie Gordon was not the difference in that game, and that's a good job by the A&M defense. They didn't shut him down, and it's not like they have anything to beat their chests over. But I don't think Gordon really does too. I think he can say, "Man, I had a good game. I had a good, strong game. They fed me the rock. They needed me to establish the run. I did that." I think that was almost like a push, as good as that guy is and the numbers he can put up. But their receivers were the difference. And the catches they made, and Bowman made some great throws too, but it was really just throwing it up and letting your receivers make plays without really the threat of the guys covering them doing much about it, unfortunately.
Billy, let's set a break. We'll come back and talk a little bit about the playoff games. Just get your thoughts on that before we call it a wrap on 2023, at least for you and I on radio. And scene. All right, we'll come back with Billy when we come back here on TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Billy, we only have 3.5 minutes and 3 minutes. How do you think this weekend plays out, the playoff games?
Whew. Man, I think Texas beats Washington. I think they get their revenge from last year. I've liked Washington all year. I've really respect the job DeBoer's done, and Penix has been sensational at times. Both these teams, to play through that season with one loss and Washington with none, it's impressive. I know Texas hasn't beaten very many teams that are very good. Washington got Oregon twice. That's what really stands out for them. Probably not a lot else. But they beat some solid teams along the way between them. I watched Washington a lot this year, and Texas will do this some too. But when Washington plays down, when they're not on their A game, they look pretty pedestrian a couple times, more than a couple times this season. And I think Texas, they certainly were rolling into this game. I think Texas wins a close one. 38-31 type of game. And I think Bama, Michigan, I'm actually going to go Michigan. I think people are sleeping on Harbaugh on that defense. I really do. And I think they're going to play old school Nick Saban, Alabama offense against the Tide defense, and they're going to get physical with them, and they're going to be willing to win a 24-21 game. And that's how I think that one plays out. I think you have Michigan, Texas, and Houston.
And then you think
Texas. And I hope I jinx the hell out of that thing right there.
Love it, man. By the way, enjoyed hanging out with Griffin yesterday. That was cool. Needed it.
All right.
Later, buddy.
I'm glad y'all got some Griff time. Also, tell Nick I'll come on tomorrow. I'm in town.
All right. Look at that. Never mind. Billy's demise 2023 are greatly exaggerated. Thank you, sir.
Later, Dave.
Later. Billy Liucci on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That's going to do it for me for 2023. Appreciate all of you, even the ones that hate me.
Let's go. That's so huge. Billy coming on. That makes the show easy.
Oh, yeah? Just for that? I'm canceling it.
Canceling the show? Cool. Get a day off.
Canceling the Billy appearance.
Oh, okay. Oh.
I'm just kidding. Thank you, Nick, for a great 2023, man.
Even better job, David. Good job.
Yeah, you're probably right. All right, that's going to do it for TexAgs Radio here on a Thursday, the last Thursday of 2023. Thank you so much for watching and listening and all the good stuff. Have a Merry Happy New Year. You know what I mean. Have a Happy New Year, everybody. Talk to you soon.